What's up, Sifus? It's the Cause with Midnight Lights Gaming, and I'm bringing you my next installment of my Sifu goal guides. This time, I'm coming at you from the tower. We're doing the ranked platinum goal, and that's getting 13,000 or more points in the tower. Now, this video has tips to maximize points so you can hit that 13,000. It also is going to be a full playthrough with commentary with even more tips, so definitely stick around and stay tuned. Again, this is the ranked platinum goal. It means 13,000 points in the tower, and I'm doing this all on disciple difficulty. I'm still in my push to 1,000 subs, so like and subscribe and stay tuned. So you can milk that juggernaut for all he's worth, which I really gotta stop saying that. But I'm not gonna milk him for all he's worth. He's a big boy, so you're gonna want to take it. You're gonna wanna milk him for all he's worth. So let's take a little peek ski at this particular goal. Again, it's ranked platinum. We're in the tower, and this is just every level has a score goal that you need to hit. The club was real tough. The others are not as tough, including this one. You just need to get 13,000 or more. Now, note, it can be done in any difficulty. I'm doing it in disciple difficulty, but you can do it in any difficulty. I'm starting to think that you get more points for master difficulty. So just keep that in mind. The harder difficulty might get you more points. So all of my goal guides have some tips involved to help you meet that particular goal. This is no different. I've got 6 tips to help maximize your points. This can be applied to any of the point-based goals on any of the levels. And I'm going to go through them quickly here and in more depth right after this. So number 1 is it's a multipass. This is all about how the basics of your multiplier and how to keep it up for maximal pointage. Cowabunga, this is about being proactive, staying on the front foot. I'll get into more depth about that. Everyone, every room. This is about how you need to take on every fighter in every room in order to hit these point totals. And then this is the number 4 is a strategy tip about how to keep your multiplier up, thin guys out, and then really get the most points you can out of the remaining fighters. 5 is the couple instincts, the things you've probably learned or taught yourself in this game that you need to kind of unteach yourself for these point goals. And then the last one is turn, 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 and you'll have to stick around for that one. So let's get into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is she knows it's a multipass.
Yeah, Leela and Multipass. She knows it's a Multipass. Leela Dallas, my wife. We're newlyweds. Just met. You know how it is. Bump into each other. Sparks happen. Yeah, she knows it's a Multipass.
Alright, multiplier basics are the more damage you do, the higher your multiplier gets. It can only get to as high as ×3. In order to get these points goals, you got to be at ×3 for as long as possible. That will do you a lot of favors. Things that get it to a ×3 are doing damage. Now, parrying, avoiding, deflecting, etc. seem to help and certainly not make anything worse. And that's some of the multiplier basics. If you get hit, of course, your multiplier goes down to ×1. And you need to get up to ×3 as quickly as possible. One other thing that I'm learning from some other YouTubers out there is that you need to vary your attack to help keep the amount of points you get for doing damage up. So basically, if you do the same move over and over again, you're going to get a diminished returns each time. The last point on multiplier basics is that you need to stay proactive and do damage or your multiplier will go down. You can see that meter on the right hand side of the ×3 between ×3 and the score, and if you're not doing damage, that will slowly tick down and your multiplier will go down. Now, there are 2 things you can do other than doing damage that get your multiplier up. One is taunt, which is right on the D-pad. It's really great if you have time and space to do it. Like I do here, I make a little space and then I taunt and then I'm able to block the punch that comes in. So buyer beware, it does take a little bit of time. The next one is a focus move you can unlock in the museum. It's called the Mighty Cowbit. There are many YouTube videos about this, but it instantly brings you up to a ×3, whereas taunting just brings you up a ×1 multiplier. Alright y'all, goal number 2, Cowabunga. This is my rallying cry to maximize your points by being proactive, by being on the front foot, doing more attacking than defending, and continuing to do damage to keep your multiplier up and keep your points going. Cowabunga also towards diversifying your portfolio of moves. You know, I definitely got into some habits on using the same moves over and over because they're very effective. But you gotta kind of switch some of that up. Different moves, be very proactive. This is how you get your points up. You do a lot more attacking than defending, which can be hard in rooms like this where you've got multiple more elite enemies. So just keep that in mind. Try and be proactive. And no, you know, you can die. So better to like keep your multiplier ×3 and try and stay on the front foot as best you can. Moving on to tip 3, everyone, every room.
Everyone, and I mean everyone. Manis and petties at the mall.
This tip is all about in all of these levels where you need to achieve a certain amount of points, you need to take on every fighter because every fighter is an opportunity for points. That means that you know, if you could bypass fighters, you shouldn't. If there's a room you can go into to fight someone, you need to do it. So in the tower, that's most relevant for the very first room, the lobby of the tower, where you could bypass everyone, but you shouldn't. You need to take them all on and get as many points as you can. All right, what do we got? What do we got? Tip number 4, thin them out, milk them out.
I taught her how to milk a cow. She taught me how to milk a cow.
So let me be real straight with this tip. This tip is about getting to 13,000 points, not 16 or 17,000 points. This is to get you over the finish line, not to be the highest point total getter in all the land. This goal is about how in the beginning of a fight where there are a lot of fighters, I'll use a weapon and I'll use takedowns. I'll do whatever I can to try and get it down to 2, 3, or 4 fighters as soon as possible. That way, for those last 2, 3, 4, or 5 fighters, I can really milk them for all the points they're worth while being less likely to be surrounded and banged up and keep getting my multiplier down to 1. So in short, thin them out, milk them out is all about getting rid of the easy enemies as quick as you can, and then from there, trying to keep the enemies that are still alive as long as possible in terms of like doing damage, not doing takedowns, not using a weapon to milk them for all the points they're worth. The last tip, thin them out, milk them out, and this tip are quite related. Number 5 to maximize your points in terms of tips is resist your urges. So in the last goal, I talked about how when you're in a room with a lot of fighters, you want to try and thin them out using whatever means possible, weapons, takedowns, whatever you want to do in order to get down to around 4 fighters. Now, once you're at 4 fighters, that's when you want to milk them for all the points that you can, and that's when you need to resist some of your urges, some of the patterns of fighting that you've probably adapted because they're effective, like takedowns. So takedowns is the first urge you need to resist, particularly when an enemy has a lot of life. So takedowns happen when you break someone's structure, a regular fighter's structure. And so you want to resist that when when a fighter has a lot of life and you take them down. That's pretty wasteful in terms of points. So don't use takedowns, and also don't use weapons when you're down to those 3 or 4 fighters. It does a lot more damage, which you want to hit a fighter as many times as possible and do as little damage as possible, and that seems to get you the most amount of points. So you got to be careful because, you know, in the tower there are plenty of opportunities to take care of some fighters just by using a one-time kill move with the knife by holding triangle on PS5, and you really got to resist that urge to use weapons, do that single move, stab, kill, and also to not do takedowns. All right, we made it to our last tip. Tip number 6, turn, turn, turn. In every level, there are fighters that turn into what I call fire rage mode, or turn into an elite. And you know this because you go to take them down, they resist your takedown, they combust into these sort of yellowy flames, and they're a lot harder of a fighter, and they get all of their life back. And before, you were praying that that wouldn't happen, and you try and not use a takedown on them. But for our intents and purposes, where we want people to have as much life as possible so we can milk them for all they're worth, that's always fun to say. But we want to milk them for all they're worth in terms of points. So we want to know the level inside and out, which fighters turn into fire rage mode and which don't. And every level it can be not random, but only certain fighters do, and they don't turn every time you do a playthrough. So I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know all the fighters in the tower that turn. Obviously, this person in this room does. But important that we want fighters to turn into fire range mode. And this brings us to our full playthrough with commentary, where I get to kick back and have some fun after some intense tip giving, which I'm always glad to do for you. I hope you like this full walkthrough with commentary. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm in my push to 1,000 subs. The second I make a single dime from any video I make, half of it's going to go to a charity we choose as subscriber community. So we're in the first room, and you know what that means. Every fighter in every room, we're going after them. So you could bypass all of these fighters if you wanted to take the shortcut or go up the elevator to meet Jin Fang. You got to take them all on. Now, what's interesting is I've found, and you know, this is part of the thin them out, milk them out thing, is that if you go pretty far into this part of the lobby, you can see one of the bodyguards is just hanging back there, which is like a gift from the Sifu gods. Thank you, Sifu gods. I will sacrifice many a lamb for you, except I won't because I'm vegan. So I'll sacrifice a tofurkey or something, because that stuff's not very good anyway. I digress. So you can see here that I am not the best Sifu player in the entire world. I'm trying to give these goal guides so that you can see a little bit of how forgiving this level is, particularly compared to the club, but I go down to ×1 plenty of times. It's important to kind of stick with it and be persistent. You'd be surprised at how forgiving it is, but of course you'll know when you're having a bad run and you need to restart. Now, 2 bodyguards to start, you know, it's going to be tough. A lot of people will go down to a ×1 in this fight, but you can see just by taking these fighters on as opposed to bypassing them, I've got almost 13,000, well, I have over 1,300 points, so... And this is one strategy you can use to try and milk them for a few more points. Just remember that you get diminishing returns when you repeat the same attack over and over again. Now, I haven't done the math. At some point, I would kind of like to. I have to do all these goal guides, and then I might sit down and kind of look at the math in terms of to help me understand how you get the most points out of any fight. What's up, Jin Fang? I'm scooting over to you. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. So damn it. You can always expect she's gonna ring that bell. One time she won't, though. All right. So we've talked about resisting some of our urges. So I would have loved to pick up this knife and take out that bodyguard, because yeah, they're a pain. Bodyguards are a bit of a pain. But you shouldn't pick up the knife. That's one of the urges you should resist. You should also resist takedowns unless a fighter has very little life left. So let me unpack that a little bit more. If you get an option to do a takedown, like right now, like I do, it'd have been fine if I used that takedown. They have no life left. Like, they have 1 punch left. It's fine if I use a takedown. However, if you use a takedown on a fighter that has a ton of life left, that is going to cost you points. That's not efficiently using your attacks for points. All right, let's talk about this room. This room's kind of nice because you have 2 fighters that really aren't that difficult, and it gives you a chance to thin them out pretty quickly. And I would recommend do that. You know, you want to thin them out so you can milk that Juggernaut for all he's worth, which I really got to stop saying that. But I'm not going to milk him for all he's worth. He's a big boy. So you're going to want to take it. You're going to want to milk him for all he's worth. And that means trying to thin out the other guys and then get as many points from him as possible. And you can do it with chasing strikes like that. That sometimes helps, but not all the time. All right, there's a flash kicker. And I'm not sure if this is just like a level 2 or 3 fighter or a bodyguard. But it's not the toughest room. You just want to make sure with the flash kicker that you're using crotch punch pretty much all of the time as she's attacking. So when she starts her attack, you want to crotch punch. It interrupts her attacks. It's like the secret sauce for any flash kicker. But you could see there too. I mean, I'm getting hit. I probably could have used the Mighty Cow bit more than I did in this playthrough. I don't get a ton more. I think I get close to 14,000 points in this playthrough. So you can also, one thing that I like about doing the playthroughs like I do is because I don't blow any of these point totals away, you can kind of compare your run to my run side by side while you're playing to see if you're kind of on track. Because again, I don't blow any of these points goals out of the water. And one other quick thing while we're here that I talked about way earlier on that you might have missed is I think you get more points for hard mode. So this is in Disciple difficulty. You might want to consider using hard mode and playing with that as a means of getting to some of these point totals. I had an easier time getting to the points, the 22,000 in the club on hard mode, but of course I've been playing the club a lot. I'm trying to beat the game at 20 years old on master difficulty, so I had a lot of runs in the club, and of course I had a great run, and that got me, well, 23 or 24,000 points, which was beautiful. So this room was important to thin him out. And I'm using a knife here because these are not the easiest fighters. I probably shouldn't. Yeah, I'm glad I sort of dropped. Oh, there I pick it up again. Perfect. Way to listen to your own tips, bud. But anyway, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, those are tough fighters. I think I'm just trying to get through them without dying. And you can absolutely make the choice not to use weapons in any of these. And if you're skilled enough, it will get you a lot more points. The problem is that if you're not taking some of the fighters out in these multi-fighter rooms, then they're going to surround you and swarm you, and you're going to be at a ×1 multiplier more than you want. So you can see this is, I think, the one fighter I get into Elite or Fire Rage mode, as I call it, where you do a takedown and they sort of combust in these flames, and they're a more difficult fighter, and they get all of their life back. So again, you could not be using the broom / staff in this, but since it's a bodyguard and now what is a pretty tough fighter, I'm just not above it, and it doesn't even do me a ton of favors. This guy gets a few licks in, this bodyguard. So use that mighty Calbit, get to ×3. I'm not mad that I'm doing a little damage. I don't think I do it, but I think when I get down to just one of these, ouch. One of these two fighters, it'd be fine to like put the weapon down, and just because one-on-one I feel like I can take almost any, like I feel good against anyone. So I probably should have put the broken staff down here. But I'm resisting the urge to take her down. I could have at least done damage while she was stunned, but whatever. And yeah, just trying to milk her for all she's worth, get all the points you absolutely can. And that's really the secret sauce. I mean, you really just are trying to keep that. And I'm close. My multiplier just went down to a ×2 because I was not being Cowabunga enough. And I had to use the mighty Calbit, and then she killed me. So there you have it. I think I was probably just avoiding dying and looking like a fool, but here we are, looking like a fool. But you can die. I don't care that much. This isn't the perfect run. It's not the best score in the world, but it does meet the goal, and that's what I'm here to help you do. A lot of sweeps now. The updates, man, the fighters do more sweeps, and it's good. It provides a challenge. In hard mode, there are a lot of sweeps. A lot of sweeps. Fajar's sweeps are annoying, to say the least. Drink a little water here. I don't know. Shrine upgrades don't really matter that much for points. You don't like do anything that helps you get more structure damage, or make your weapons more potent. That doesn't help you with points. But other than that, it's just really not that big of a deal. And what a jump. What a leap. So this is a little tighter confines. I have this broom or whatever with me to help, and you absolutely don't need it. You probably get more points without it, but you certainly don't need it for just this one Juggernaut. If I had to do this over, I probably would have held R1 to drop the broom for the Juggernaut to milk him as best I could. So you can really effectively, but you can see I'm not doing a takedown. Good for me on that. But triangle, triangle, triangle is just a brutal, with a staff, is a brutal combo for Juggernaut. So next, a couple fighters come. They're at least level 2, I think. And you don't need the staff. You really don't want them to be on opposite sides of you. That's the worst thing you can do. And you can throw them off that little gated side of the elevator. But you know, I'm taking my licks here. I'm not at times 1. I don't. My focus meter isn't fully up. I get to a times 3. That's good. And I'm at 8,000, almost 9,000 at this point, going into the pits, the depths of the tower, the upside down. And this kind of brings us back to, you know, you want to try and resist your urge in these, because there are plenty of times you can pick up a knife and hold triangle on PS5 to one time kill them, one shot kill them. And you just don't want to do that. So this room, you know, again, I think this is where Cowabunga really matters. I think it's good to try and disarm, of course, but also just to get rid of a few fighters as fast as possible. That thinning them out is just going to do you big favors in terms of not getting down to a times 1. I use my mighty cowbit. You can see a couple more fighters have dropped down, including a couple tougher fighters. Ooh, that was nice. And I'm doing a pretty good job of diversifying my moves. I use, what is it, crotch punch, duck punch, I forget the name of it all of a sudden. But it, you know, it's one move that sort of pushes them back, and then I will follow up with chasing strikes or the like chasing sweep move. So yeah, again, I dropped the knife here. You can use that and stab her and kill her one time with the knife, but I need to get as many points as possible. Remember, with flash kicks, I don't know if I do a great job of this here, but the best thing to do with flash kicks is to crotch punch them. While they're in mid, there it is. So when they start their attack, a crotch punch will interrupt it if you time it right. So can't recommend it enough with the flash kickers. I resisted the takedown, still had a little life left, and we're still going. So, and that's the other thing too, with some of these more elite fighters or mini bosses, it may look like their life is really low, but everyone's bar is the same length. But of course, mini bosses have more hit points, so I would just not take them down. Like, don't take down mini bosses, I think, is a good guide for yourself. Just try and keep striking them until they're donezo, dunsky. No more zo. No more ski. Yeah, I'm here for that. All right, moving on to one of our sort of last rooms here. Definitely one of my more frustrating rooms. Again, trying to beat this on master difficulty at 20. Yeah, we get a bodyguard and a wicked flash kicker here. And that combination, I thought 2 flash kickers were one of the worst combos you could have, but a bodyguard and a flash kicker is pretty rough. So I'm doing a lot of practicing patience here, which is kind of a bonus tip. When you've got multiple fighters like this, you kind of want to balance your like Cowabunga energy with your being patient and making space. You don't want to lose that ×3 multiplier. Ooh, I'm going to do a stab. That's interesting. So you don't need to do that, but I don't know. It probably helps me because I would have probably gone down to a ×1. So those are the kind of decisions you can make. I think that was pretty risky at just at 12,000 points with, what, one fighter? One fighter plus a few stragglers. One mini boss and a few stragglers. So I might not recommend the stabbing. But, you know, there's a good opportunity with this mini boss to milk. This is a Shan's disciple in terms of moves, so I have the staff. I don't need it. That did a lot of damage. That sweep did a lot of damage. So, again, I'm sort of in self-preservation mode here a little bit. I don't want to keep dying and look like a schmo. But I really need to be at a ×3 multiplier for all of that. And I use a takedown. So risky maneuvers from me. Those are things you know, it's a judgment call. Certainly if I had this all to do over again, I probably would not have used the staff in that last fight. I had just gone with fisticuffs. Dukes, I got no fucking Dukes. Adam Sandler. Remember CDs? Anyway, not important. Alright, so why did I bring these fighters down here? I sort of forget why. Doesn't matter. I'm using takedowns. Do I even know I need 13,000 points for this goal? Do I just like barely get it? I think I do. I don't get almost 14,000. I barely hit this goal. So all the more reason to use my marker as a guide, because I just barely get it. 73 points over. So there you have it, y'all. That is ranked platinum. Some tips on what to do, some tips on what not to do. And thank you so much for watching. This is Kaz with Midnight Lights Gaming. I'm in my push to 1,000 subs right now. If I make a penny from tips or videos from YouTube, any dime that comes to me, at any point, half of it will go to a charity that we choose as a subscriber community. No BS. I'm going to upload receipts. You're going to be able to participate in the voting, see how much I'm making. It's a great way to think about how we can use this system and YouTube to do some good. Thanks, y'all.